Hello YouTube, this is Shane here from the deep south of New Zealand, and I'm going to bring you an update on my restored Garrard Lab 80 turntable, which is an idler wheel turntable that I restored some years back. And this is an update about the current state, where it's at now. So yeah, stick with me. Hopefully vinyl lovers, turntable lovers, music lovers, and indeed idler wheel lovers and unipivot lovers may find something of interest here. It's great to be able to bring something back and repurpose it and possibly even get it better than it was when it came out of the factory. Stick with me. So here she is. This is the little system that I'm using in the office upstairs in my home office, and here is what I've now called the seismograph. This is my Garrard Lab 80 idler wheel turntable from 1964. Actually, I'm not sure when this was made. I think it's older than me. I'm not entirely sure, and this is an upgrade. Now, this was purchased. This came up for sale on Trade Me, which is a New Zealand equivalent of eBay. eBay doesn't get a lot of use here, doesn't get a lot of purpose here, because Trade Me is quite prolific. And this came up. I just probably had a catch search in there for Garrard, and this came up, and I purchased this for the princely sum of $5. Well, when I say this, what I actually purchased, of course, was the turntable itself, just the metal frame. I think it had been removed from a cabinet. So the cabinet itself, if you could imagine the old stereograms of yesteryear, this had been removed. So it was with the springs and all of the internal workings, and the arm was intact, and everything was there, including the original rubber mat, and the instruction manual was with it. I still have that. The only thing that wasn't there was the tall spindle, which would normally fit in the middle, because as you're probably aware, this was an automatic turntable which would drop down the discs one by one. And I picked this up from a lady who had obviously removed this turntable from the cabinet because she wanted to repurpose the cabinet, and I picked this up for the princely sum of $5 New Zealand dollars, which is probably, I don't know, $3 or £2.50. And I collected this from lovely Port Chalmers, where I go to quite regularly for work. Port Chalmers is a port village in Otago, near the city of Dunedin. And so I picked this up, brought it home, and wondered what to do with it for a little while. And then I got the plan of having a friend manufacture a solid plinth. I figured that this would be something that would probably benefit from complete stripping down. I got it running. The speed was great. The idler wheel hadn't been used at all. Really hadn't had much use at all. So I didn't really want to restore it. I wanted to get the best that I could from an idle wheel sound. Being a little bit of a Lin man myself, I thought I'd try and bring this and see what we can get out of it. So what I did was remove all of the internal workings that didn't affect play. So all of the automatic mechanism, and all of the mechanism that really had nothing to do with either the main bearing or the drive itself, was stripped away. Obviously checked out the main bearing, cleaned that out, cleaned all of the rubber, cleaned the inside of the inner of the platter where that rubs against the idler wheel, and all of that was looking fine anyway. I removed the arm, and then I got a friend of mine to make a plinth for me. Now this was a fellow by the name of Prentice. He previously lived out at Riverton, and he's now moved into Invercargill, and he machined this. I think I got the plans from the Vinyl Engine. Vinyl Engine had the actual plans for this underneath, so I passed him the plans, and he machined this out of a relatively solid lump. You can see it's got the two cheeks on there. It really needed it quite wide because I wanted to be able to put a 12-inch arm on here, and he machined it out beautifully. So it's really solid and really heavy, and I've stuck some 4 legs on here along with some disc feet. So it's very solid, very, very heavy, and it's just marine ply. It's actually quite a lovely piece of marine ply. I also ordered a lid for it. As you can see, the seismograph has a perspex lid, which is really lovely. It seems to work really well. At the time, though, I hadn't figured on putting on this behemoth of a unipivot arm. So you can see I've rather crudely removed with a chainsaw and a flamethrower the back corner there. So I've got to tidy that up. And also, subsequent to that, I've lowered the arm height as it was running a little, as she was running a little uphill. I've lowered the arm height, which means I now have to cut away even more of that beautiful perspex at the back there. So with the perspex lid removed, which is a bit of a chore at the moment, as I say, because the arm has been lowered. Now this is a New Zealand made, at least I think it is, it's Temad Audio, T-E-M-A-A-D audio, and I have rewired this with, I think it's Found and Hull. I think it's in Found and Hull, and that mounts onto the back there in the usual haphazard fashion for this kind of Heath Robinson invention. Now, not a lot of experience in setting up a unipivot arm, and from what I can establish, they're never properly set up. It's actually impossible to set the damn things up properly, but you can get reasonably close. So, yeah, that was quite a chore, and it remains a little bit of a challenge. So I keep the handy dandy Allen key ready. Now you'll see I removed the arm and all of the mechanism from there, and what I've done is in certain parts I've just added a little bit of leather just to dampen down some vibrations that were there. I removed the springs and I've mounted it. It's actually screwed to the wooden plinth. Now I'm not 100% sure that that's the best way of doing it, but by adding the 12-inch arm to the correct position, the arm is decoupled from the top plate itself, which means if I was to have spring loading on there, they're always going to be at odds with each other. So I felt that they needed to be on the same physical plane, which by being decoupled by springs they wouldn't be. Now I'm not sure that is the best outcome. So what I might have to do is look at isolating the feet a little bit better than I have been. The wise amongst you will have noticed that I replaced the old rubber mat. I tried a few different things. I tried the old mat from my Lynn, tried the rubber mat, and I've ended up with the Funk Firm Acromat, which is a relatively thick device, relatively meaty, as you can see there. I wonder if I should polish the edge of that turntable. That might be an idea. The bearing itself is fantastic. This will spin, as you're aware. These were relatively well made. They're not exactly engineering genius, but they're really not badly made. That will spin for some time. So, as all the mechanism is removed, we do still have 33 and 45. That is selectable, but the other bits have all gone. So these is automatic here, which would have selected between the 12-inch, 10 and 7-inch. The auto is gone. That's now just connected up here via the manual. So this is basically just an on-off switch. And now I've turned it on, and we still get the familiar glow of the old Garrard power, and that's showing. In fact, I actually didn't even realize that it did that. Look at that. Okay. Wow. All the time I spent on this, and I didn't even realize that it indicated the size of the record that you have selected through the light. So, also here is a Lynn moving magnet cartridge. This is the Lynn K18, if this is ever going to let us focus. It's not an ideal match for this. In fact, downstairs on my LP12 Sondeck, I have the Denon, the little cheap Denon moving coil $500 thing, the 103 I think it is, which is probably a much better fix for this. So I'll be upgrading my LP12 soon, which means I can put the Denon up here, and I think that'll be a much better fit Mechanically, the arm is incredibly heavy, so that's just basically a big lump of steel that's machined out of onto a I think it's carbon fiber wand, which works reasonably well. As I say, I don't know how much of a fan I am of the unipivot arm. You never set the damn thing up. It's always close, but never quite there. So this runs on, in New Zealand we have 230 volts, 50 hertz, and this is running just fine. There was a wee period a while ago when our electric fences weren't earthed properly, and you could occasionally hear the odd pop and ping through the speakers, but now that we've had that that repaired, that earthing issue has resolved itself. So I enjoy using this old girl. She really is quite a joy. Like all things, never gets quite as much use as I'd really like, but then again, I'm using it quite a lot. I'll give you a brief overview of the rest of the system. So this runs into the venerable Cambridge Audio, and that's not a bad. It's got a moving coil, moving magnet. I quite enjoy the Cambridge Audio products, and that's not a bad little product. Then into a cheap and nasty Chinese valve amp, which has been fun, but it's not the great coupling for this. I have not too long ago acquired the Denon cassette deck, and at the bottom is one of Roy Gandy's old, gosh it's dark here, is one of Roy Gandy's old Riga radios, which occasionally gets some use. Now this is running in through a pair of Lin cans, again not a good, and then on the right stands, not a great match for this system, which can be a little bit toppy, and the cans don't like that kind of thing, as you're aware, and they also need really good power amp, and that is not a really good power amp. So if there's any questions you'd like, any suggestions on how I can improve the isolation of this turntable, it's great fun. It seems to be incredibly robust and reliable, and it's a real talking point. People come in and see the seismograph, and they always want to know what it's about, and they're always pretty impressed when they hear it. It plays tunes quite well. Again, managing the arm is something of a challenge. There's no lever there, but you can actually just manhandle the front. You can actually pick it up from here, and it works quite well. That, again, the wires will have noticed that that's a Gelco arm holder. I can't remember what you'd call them. And it seems to go reasonably well. Again, have to drop that down now that I've dropped the back. It was running uphill. So yeah, please feel free to ask me any questions, suggestions about how I might get this better. And I think the best thing to do for this is put the Denon cartridge on up here. The Lin isn't a great match, and for those of you who don't think a Lin's a great match for anything, feel free to comment that as well. Yeah, let's keep spinning discs, let's enjoy our music, and let's keep doing the best that we can with the stuff that's been brought to us. So hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to send your friends here. I love hi-fi. I have a long history with hi-fi products, reviewing, design and sales. So yeah, keep coming back. See you soon.